Welcome back to Me on the Mic. Today we are talking about the drummer from 5 Seconds of Summer, Ashton Irwin, who has the key straight to our hearts with his solo music. So let's get moving. So starting off with Superbloom, this was the first of the solo albums, and this was a really exciting time because we really got to hear each of the boys start to create their own individual sound. And I love a lot of the reference points in Ashton's solo music. Some standouts for me is Skinny Skinny is very emotional, and the video for that has a lot of amazing symbolism, so that really stands out for me. I love the interlude, Matter of Time, because it's just so delicate. And I love that. If I was to only pick three favorites, it's really tough for me to pick between Sunshine and Drive because I really love both of those. But I'm trying to have just a top three for every album. I'm going to
What
go with
would the
Drive.
top three? So Drive.
So I think top three would be Skinny Skinny, The Matter of Time interlude, and then Drive.
Interesting. I love all the songs. I will say I love, I'm so sorry, Callum. I am like Ashton's solo, like biggest fan.
Yeah.
I love Super Bloom. I love Blood on the Drums. I just think he is incredible. I love Callum's solo music as well. He's my bias, so like I have to just the like you said, the excitement of him releasing the first solo album is like so memorable, and to have such a good first solo album was just it's just crazy. And then if I was to follow up with the same like top three, I'm to blame easily number one, right? Does that make me a narcissist? Maybe. I think Perfect Lie would be up there. And then I also want to say maybe Drive. Yeah, I'm gonna say, yeah, I'm to blame Perfect Lie and Drive.
Fair
I'm to
enough.
blame number one easily.
Drive was one that the story behind that, because the Instagram live, he went live on something to explain all of the songs. And the story behind Drive, oh, like it's so true. Like we can sit here and sit in it, or we can just keep going, is something that was very relevant, especially at that time. It did come out in 2020. The 2020, 2021 time frame for me was there was so much change, there was so much unknown, there was so much loss. Um, and so that really did stick with me. I could also go on about how Skinny Skinny stuck with me. Um, I tend not to listen to that song because he somehow managed to capture exactly what it sounds like in your brain when you are sort of struggling with, eating and body image. So I actually can't listen to it because it's a lovely song, like the message behind it is a lovely song, and yet to me it actually sounds like being tormented. So, um,
I do think as well visually with that song, the music video with the mirrors and the kind of like beating yourself up with all of the like skeleton type doodles, I think it just adds a whole extra. The song is already like very intense.
yeah.
It kind of lays it all out there, like this is what it means. There's no kind of gray area about what it's about. And then you add the video to the mix as well, and you're like, oh my God, if I wasn't having a crisis before, I definitely am now.
Yeah, exactly. The first time I played this album in the car, because I played all of the Five Sauce albums and all of the solo albums in a road trip with mum. The first time I played it in the car, I got so nervous as the song was coming up. I was like, do I skip it? I was like, but if I skip it, then mum's gonna be like, what's up? What's that song about? So I just I sat there like gripping my seat the entire time, being like, please don't realize what this is about. I don't want to discuss it, mum. Um, but it does also make you stop and think and reflect. And I think this album is really good in the sense that it does bring to the surface a lot of conversations and a lot of topics you wouldn't otherwise sort of discuss. And he did do it in such a delicate way, like all of the promo and press around it. He was like talking about reaching out for help if you need it. And he did direct his fan base and his audience to where to get the help. So he went about it in such a delicate way, which I can respect, even though that song I'm just like, I cannot listen to.
I do also think, I think almost everyone has struggled with some kind of a body issue, weight issue, self-image issue. But I think if you are one of few that hasn't, or it hasn't impacted you deeply, it's one of the songs that you're able to listen to and understand at least someone else's perspective of it. So even if you don't understand it from a personal perspective, you're able to kind of sympathize with it, and it kind of just shifts your view a little bit on how people see themselves, and it makes you a little bit more gentle and a little bit more kind to other people because you don't know what everyone else is going through.
Mm. Yeah. You wouldn't know now. And this is again, you can see by the language I'm gonna about to use about my body, exactly your point. But you wouldn't know now because I've gone sort of more the other way with my weight. But at the time that the song came out, I was not eating like actually at all. Um, my friends at school were all so aware of it that they would try and force food down. There were a lot of rumors going around that I was pregnant because I couldn't keep any food down. Sort of, it wasn't me putting body issues on myself. It was me actually physically sick and I couldn't keep food down. And a lot of people thought that I was doing it to myself.
Hmm.
And so this song was triggering in a whole new way is that a lot of people would be like, you can love yourself, you can love your body. And they would sort of bring up the song because I knew I liked Ashton. They'd bring up the song, they'd be like, see, like everyone goes through it. And I was trying to express to a lot of people, I'm not starving myself. I physically can't keep the food down. And so when I listen to the song, it does bring a lot of that up. Um, and Ashton is very good in a lot of his songs. And as we'll explore, not only with this album, but with also with Blood on the Drums, a lot of his songs, I can actually picture an exact moment of my life, as if he's singing to that experience, to the emotions. Um, so yeah, but then
He is very good at kind of like putting you in the center of it. No matter who you are, the way he sings and the way he explains things and the way his lyrics are just like put together just puts you at the center of the song. It's not like a I feel this way and I'm the only one that feels this way. It's very much like a I feel like you feel like this, so I'm gonna sing about it for you.
yeah, exactly. And then when we get to the interlude Matter of Time, I think that is such an amazing interlude, not only because of how it sounds, but he's talking about all of these big issues, and then he's like, but at the end of the day, it's all just a matter of time. Like seasons change, things come and go. Um, and I think that that really stands out because of the other heavy topics in this album.
And I sometimes I don't really know why I gravitate towards songs. Like sometimes it just sticks with me. And I think I'm to Blame did that for me. I do love the lyrics and I do think I find bits of myself in the lyrics and I also think I find experiences that I've experienced in the lyrics from other people.
Mm,
But I very much enjoy the sound of it. I love how drum heavy it is, and I know I said that in the Five Sauce review about a lot of my favorite Five Sauce songs are very drum heavy. So it's on brand. But yeah, I'm to blame being so sonically just cool, just like upbeat and fast. And even though it's kind of miserable if you deep it for a second, it's so like energetic that
yeah,
it's fun. Like, yeah, maybe it's quite toxic, but like it's fun. I'm to blame, yeah, very energetic, very toxic, very fun. I think I said very similar things about Evolve. So again, it's on brand for me. I'm so sorry. Um, Drive, I just really like the pacing of it. I think
yeah.
it's almost mellow. And then Perfect Lie is just again, it's quite toxic. It's quite I have reflected on this many times since Superbloom has come out, and I've looked at my top three and I've gone, what does this say about me? But
Yeah.
whatever. I will say, oh my God, I've got it here because I wanted to. One of my favorite things. That's my face, right? Hold on.
Yep. Yeah.
Ashton Irwin. He said, so me and a bunch of people, however many tracks there are on the album, that's the amount of people we got together. And all of us lip synced to like our favorite song on the album, smushed it all together, made one big video on it to like promote it essentially and just
Yeah.
show our love for it. And he quoted it and he was like, "This melts me. I love you all so much. This makes everything worth it. Thank you, thank you, thank you." And I was like, "Oh, so cute." And I just think it's so insane because my face is in that video and it freaks me out a little bit. But every time anyone talks to me about Super Bloom, it like takes me to that and how it really did mean a lot to him. Still does, but time's moved on, you know. It did really mean a lot to him, and it was obviously something that was so sensitive and important to him that to have it received so well must have been such an achievement for him.
Yeah. Well, he did a lot of like lives and discussions during that time about how vulnerable it felt. Um, because I remember I also used Ashton as one of my subjects in a case study, um, along with you actually, which was hilarious comparing you to Ashton Irwin and Taylor Swift, which was um, but a lot of what I discussed because I talked about like how different people promote themselves creatively is that Ashton is someone who there's a lot of strength in his vulnerability, where other people they can be really vulnerable, but it doesn't connect, like it whether it doesn't feel authentic or whatever. Um, but it's reflected in his lyrics. It's reflected in how he promotes it. It's reflected in all of the artwork within his little album booklet and stuff. Um, yeah, and I think that's why Superbloom feels so special and so like why it connects so much to the audience's stories as well as Ashton's. So
Mhm. I
yeah.
do think as well, like he's been so open, even before Super Bloom, he's always been open about the struggles he's faced and like his upbringing and issues within his family with substances and stuff. So like he's always been very kind of loud and proud about his problems, which I think is great. I think it's fantastic. I think more, especially males, should be doing that. Um, but I think to have it in such a beautiful art form just makes it that much more special because it takes it from like just here's my life. Anyways, there's that
Mm,
to something more consumable, something more relatable, something more, like you say, connecting, where you can
yeah.
kind of put yourself in it. Because, yes, when he's talking about it, he is talking about his singular experiences. Whereas when you then turn it into art, you're making it more palatable for more people.
Yeah. Ashton just has a way with his voice as well where and I've said this before on Twitter and some people fight me when I say this. Ashton was always going to be an artist, whether it was a drummer, whether he played another instrument, a writer, a poet, a painter. He just has a way of taking human experience and connecting people and communities with it. That
Mhm.
I genuinely believe, whether he found the band or not, whether he went and explored it solo or not, he always was going to change people's perspective and, well, really, if we want to get into it, change the world with how he is just so open and vulnerable and expresses things. Um,
I do think as well that shows in how he talks to people about his art. I've had a fair few interactions with him in person and a couple online, but when he is like in front of you or anyone and he's having these conversations, everyone always comes onto Twitter and says how lovely Ashton is.
mm,
There's been a couple of like bad ones, and then you find out the context and you're like, oh, well,
yeah,
deserved. But overall, everyone comes online and says he held this conversation with me for so long. He asked me questions. He really wanted to know, and he does. He stands there and he listens to you. I cannot stress. I think it was like 1 o'clock in the morning for like an hour, maybe nearing two, that Ashton just stood outside with me and a friend and just we just spoke about everything. We spoke about life, the stars, architecture, my university, where I am in life, what I do, his albums, the shows that he does, why I'm in the music industry, like so many things. And he was there and he was talking about it, and then he would bounce the question back on me as if we were level playing people. Like, obviously, I a part of me believes we are. Like, he just does his job, I just do my job. There's nothing crazy special about him. He's just famous, right?
yeah,
But to have someone of his level also think that keeps him like really humble and really really lovely and he's so easy to talk to. And the fact that he was sat there and he was going, well, he wasn't sat, the fact he was stood there just asking me questions about like what I do and where I come from and why I got into it. And I was able to say that it's because of your band. This is why I do this. And this is like, I graduated with this like insane good grade because I, all of my case studies were about music and concerts and everything. So like, I wouldn't be into it as much as I am if it wasn't for that band. And to be able to stand in front of Ashton and to have him like take it in and be like, that's so cool. And to
Mm,
have him like encourage me, insane. And the fact that there is like countless people that have these experiences and will come online and say how lovely and wonderful and chatty he is, I think also just makes him more human.
yeah,
It makes him more approachable, it makes his art more digestible, it just makes him so nice.
exactly. And if we really want to like absolutely pick existence apart, this podcast also wouldn't exist without Ashton being that way because I've never met the guy. But when you and I started communicating, I don't think that Everyone's a Star was even announced, if I'm correct.
Probably not.
But I had seen, not to go all, I've been looking at your profile, but I I had seen the way you discuss this guy, the way you talk about his how much he means to you, his music, his all of the deep and meaningful stuff. Um, and how you had talked about how much he'd influenced all of your university stuff. And I was also finishing up my papers and my stuff where I discussed them all up. And it made me go like, yes, like you're getting it. You've there was an element of that shared lived experience. Like I'm in New Zealand, you're in London, and the way you talked about his songs and what memories it brought up, I was like, okay, I know that you'd understand my perspective, but also the fact that you wouldn't just take his songs and talk about how the majority of people feel about them, you'd explore it deeper. Um, and I find that people who have like Ashton solo music as like their bias versus one of the other guys' solo music as their bias, they do seem to be people who look into things deeper, who really analyze things. And I love that community that he's built of people who aren't just like gonna accept the surface level, that they're gonna dig deeper. Um, Blood on the Drums, I love everything he did with this because what do you mean that we got the fawns and we got to sit with that for a while and then we got the roses? That is incredible. Um, so I guess we'll start with side one, the fawns.
Mhm.
And this time I don't have to stick to top three. I get top three for both sides, which is amazing.
Okay.
What a title track, Blood on the Drums. That music video is so amazing and it's such a big sound. I love it. I have told my brother, because he's a drummer, I said, if you cannot get to that level where you're shooting a music video like that, I don't want you. Get out of my house. Um, he insisted he's already at that level, and I said, bullshit. um,
Shame.
Shame on you. So, but I have been trying to actually get my brother to cover that because I think it would be funny to be like, you're not, you see, Ashton, you're not that. Anyway, last night of my life, there is something that I cannot describe. I keep going back to it. It's, can't tell you why. I just really love it. Okay, I'm gonna say, because it's really hard, I'm gonna say Break Up as my third because there is something so sassy about it. And also in a really nasty way, I can picture someone with that song.
I I don't have a top three from like both, I don't think, but this is for context, I listened to Blood on the Drums for the first time ever, maybe 3 months ago.
Shame.
I left the fandom for like 4 years after the Take My Hand tour, so I just didn't keep up to date with any. I knew he'd released a new album, but I was trying to like retract from fangirl life so much and like being so invested in everything that I was like, I'll get around to listening to it when I do.
Yeah.
Um, anyways, that's all gone down the drain.
Yep.
Breakup is so sexy. That's the one song that all of my mutuals on Twitter were like, Toya, what the hell? Why have you not listened to this? What is going on? And I was like, I don't care to listen to it. Like, it's old news now. I've moved on. Ashton's moved on. It's fine. I don't need to listen to the album. Like, it's fine. Wrong.
I was sitting there going, seriously, just listen to it because I was sitting there going, you're going to be trying to find any copy of this album that you can.
Hmm.
I've got a funny story about that. So I've had to go back and collect a lot of albums because a lot of the time I'll think, oh, I'm not going to order that through the artist's website. I'll wait until it goes to like JB. When you live in New Zealand, a lot of things don't actually go to JB. So I never got it. And then when I went back on Twitter, I started posting. I was like, I went day one of asking Ashton to re-release Blood on the Drums. The very next
You
day,
think what
it was
I'm
up on his
doing?
website. Literally, the very next day, it was up on his website. I was like, look, I've got, look at me, I've got superpowers. Um,
I'm based every couple of days. If you follow me on Twitter, you will see me go, Ashton, please. Please. Yes, breakup, so sexy, so juicy, just so wow. Okay, love it. Blood on the Drums, again, agree with you. The dun 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 of it.
yes,
It
I know.
just excites me. Just excites me so much.
Yeah.
Um, what else do I like from just disc one? I like all of them. Let me clarify that.
Oh, I know.
I like all of them. Um, Last Night in My Life you mentioned as well. I think the first couple of times I listened to it, I cried because I felt like I was dying.
Yeah.
Not like I was actively dying, but like this is the kind of song you would hear if you were. And I just kind of spiraled.
Indestructible, I thought I was dying for because, okay, if you know anything, I don't know if I said this on Twitter or if I said this in a what's it called? When they do like the fan listening parties things.
Mhm.
Um, I have said this multiple times, and I'm not ashamed to say it. There seems to be a curse when it comes to me that if any song from Blood on the Drums comes on while I'm on the treadmill, I will fall off. Um, just because I start singing along. The amount of times I've fallen off the treadmill to the beat of Indestructible is unfunny because it's the song's Indestructible and clearly I'm not. Um,
Sorry, it started playing.
if we go into disc two,
Mhm.
all I'm gonna say is ah.
I know what song you're going to talk about. I know what song you're going to talk about.
Which one?
I California Holds Her Breath.
Yeah.
I want to start with the Canyon because I think it's so cool. It's also it's kind of sexy, but more in the beat, not in the lyrics. The beat of it is kind of sexy.
California Holds Your Breath hurts me in a very specific way that I almost enjoy because it is actually my number two most streamed song of all time. There's something about this song where, even with the exact story he described of writing the song, I can actually picture myself at a very specific time. There's a time in my life where I would go into the bathroom, throw up, take a fistful of pills, and then get out on stage and perform because I was the lead. Um, I was the lead in a production or one of the leads, but I also couldn't keep any food down. I was in a new town, and I hated how I was interacting with everyone else because I knew that I wasn't who I wanted to be. I was angry, I was lost, but I didn't know how to deal with it. Um, one day before one of our practices, not before one of the shows, instead of taking the pill, like just the regular amount of pills, because I had to take a couple of different pills, um, I actually decided to double my fistful. Um, there's something about the lighting because it was in a dressing room. There's something about the lighting from a disco ball. And realizing that wasn't really what I wanted. So no, he says I can see your heart reflected off that disco ball, writing down your next confession on the bathroom wall. Um, yeah, it does really stick with me where I'm like, where I had that moment of just looking at that light and going, this isn't really what I want, and this isn't really who I am. Um, and so I still listen to that song. Anytime that I feel like I'm going backwards, I listen to that song and I'm like, well, I'm not, I'm not her, but she is still within me. Um, and hearing about the story behind the song, the AA meeting, and like wondering if you're ever going to see that girl again. I do remember every day I'd leave school and my friends would text me like, "You have to be at school tomorrow. We have to see you show up again. Like, don't do anything to yourself in between." Um, and so I know that that's like, will she ever show up again? Is how my friends felt during that time. Um, there's a lot of when I listen to that song, I feel sorry to myself for doing that to myself, but I also feel sorry to all of them for putting them through that. So yeah, that's why I said that song that you can't listen to. I was like, I've got a story like that. Um, yeah,
I just that's why I like music though, because I think it's a beautiful song. I but because I it took me so long to listen to the whole album, none of it has like stuck with me like too emotionally because I wasn't
mm,
there for the rollout. I didn't watch the music videos when they dropped. I wasn't like invested in it. But that's what I love about music is the ability that it has to resonate with people and to have people put themselves in songs and the fact that everyone can perceive it all in a different way. Because yes, it is a beautiful song and it's a very like slow, kind of calming, almost peaceful song, like a reflective, not necessarily in a good or a bad way, but just a, oh, this is where I've come from, just kind of factually reflecting on the past and whether or not you relate to that in a deep emotional way or not. Like I said about Superbloom, it's kind of a universal feeling of everyone has to go through that. Everyone has some kind of body issues, like he mentions in Skinny Skinny, and everyone has some kind of reflection of where they could have done better or they had a horrible experience happen to them and how they've learned to grow from it. To have
yeah,
that, so in such like what, 3 to 4 minute songs, like
yeah,
a whole life essentially is crazy to me, and I don't think there's many people in the world that can do it like Ashton does it.
yeah, exactly. And that's why I will always gravitate to his music because very few artists make me feel that level of scene. Where, as I said, I just sat there just thinking about the song title, and immediately I could still picture the exact light reflecting off the disco ball. I could still picture exactly how I was in that room. And then when I listen to, no, when I think about the fact that Blood on the Drums is not the final new music release that I heard of him, when I listen to all of his newer music with the band and think, that girl there actually heard that music, that also makes me emotional because I'm like, that could have been the final ever new music release I heard from these boys. Um, so yeah, another song I have to mention on disc two, Glory Days, that every one of the guys has a song that really talks about early Five Sauce days. And that is so, it's just so cute to see that even in their solo music, the band and the brotherhood really means so much to them that they still incorporate that in their solo sound. Um, and I think that's so sweet and kind. Again, though, it is a little bit of a moment where you're like, that song is so upbeat, so happy, so not as deeply emotional as the rest of the album, that it kind of strikes you as a bit of a, oh, especially because it's not the final song. You almost feel like it should be.
Yeah. Yeah, my first run through of the album, I didn't really look at the track list beforehand. I just pressed play and let it do its thing. When I
Mm.
got to Glory Days, I was like, oh, are we at the end already? And then no,
And
because it sounds like such a closer.
I always feel that way. When I had it on, when I was just streaming it before I actually had the vinyl, because obviously you don't stop a vinyl before it's done. Um, but I would always, I'd do a couple of times where I didn't listen to the final two songs because I'd get to Glory Days, end of Glory Days, I'd think it was over and I'd go and switch to a different album. It wasn't actually until I got the proper record and played it all the way through that I went, oh, there's two bonus songs, and then looked at the track list and went, no, there's not. Sorry, Ashton, we love you, I promise.
One final plea to Ashton Irwin himself. I don't own Blood on the Drums physically,
And we need to
and I
fix
own
that.
every single other album, every single other.
Yeah.
So, so there's a hole in my collection that needs to be filled, and there is only one person that can do that, Ashton Irwin.